So we're trying a new format for our business meeting, and we're doing this a little bit on purpose because we have two sort of ready-made venues for us now that we don't need to, go up to another convention and say, pretty please, can we have time at your con to do our business meeting? And this makes it a little bit easier for us. So for both HonorCon and MantaCon, we're going to have a half-year update. So every time you'll find out about pretty much what happened the last half year. And this way, twice a year, you all get to hear it, and we're going to ensure that it gets streamed and all that stuff so people can see it remotely. We're going to try to keep this at least a little bit short. I know that I've got something that I want John Stout to talk about. But in general, TRMN as a whole is doing pretty well. Things are moving forward. For those of you that were here at the awards ceremony yesterday, you know that we have swapped out our 5th Space Lord. Ann Zecca is stepping down, and Stephanie Taylor is taking over as Bupers. We are working on the database is slowly approaching a state where hopefully it will be done by the beginning of the year. That is the plan.
It will be.
Dave says it will be, so I will trust Dave.
That's what I do professionally.
The awards manual is done in draft. Someone other than myself, Brandy, has now seen it.
What?
Award manual. Well, you've seen it too.
Wait, I've seen it too.
Right, but you've seen the cover, but Brandy's seen the inside.
I flipped through it all.
Okay.
It's in my email box.
I didn't read it.
The final one will be done hopefully by the end of the week. There are some errors in there that need to be corrected. I'm going to be sending those errors back to Bucom on Monday. Mainly it was instances where I had sent them 2 files for the same award, one that had corrections and one that was the old text, and they opted to use the old text for some reason. Oops. So we will fix that so that we have the correct descriptions in there. It doesn't impact most of the individual awards, but it does impact some of the group awards. So we will make sure that that gets taken care of. Financially, we're doing relatively okay. We're tight on finances at the moment, but that has a lot to do with the migration that we had for DreamHost and the new bandwidth issue that we have there, and trying to make sure that we have the right pricing scheme for the bandwidth that we're using. We've had some other small expenses too for things that have just come up where we needed printing materials and stuff like that we haven't replenished for a few years because what we had lasted us a while. The ever popular question of ID badges, because I know it's an ever popular question. When we do them, we're really likely going to have to rerun everybody's ID badge because everybody has changed in positions and ships and things like that. Right now we're at 2,500 members. It's $1,000 per printer ribbon.
Ouch.
Yep. So what happens when you have an old printer that they don't make many ribbons for anymore?
Would it be cheaper to buy a new printer?
We're almost at the point where it would be, but it's not quite yet.
Would it be cheaper to contract it?
No, I checked into that. Actually, it actually winds up being more expensive.
Oh, I was saying, did you check into it to the people who you know, who you found as a printing source recently?
ID badges, like the physical ID badges, I don't think the Final Sword does that. It's a very unique printer. Plus, they need the encoding capability to encode the stroke. In case you didn't know, hold on.
Can we maybe go to something that uses a QR code instead of a magnetic stripe?
So that's just an issue of printing it, but the problem is the card blank comes with a magnetic stripe. All of your magnetic stripes are actually encoded in your membership. So,
Why do we need something that elaborate?
well, we don't technically need something that elaborate, but one of the things that we are trying to do is we're trying to plan ahead for stuff. One of the things that I would eventually like to talk to the database team about is being able to tie in the functionality where you are at an event. So we have a lot of awards that are participation based. Have you been at an event? We would like to be able to eventually tie in the functionality to the database where you can walk up to the little card swipe, put your card in, you go swipe, and it says, hey look, this person was at that event. Hey look, this award is a participation award for being at that event.
We don't need
Nope.
that. We could easily do that the QR codes as well.
Okay, well, however we wind up doing it.
But
I'm
yeah,
just- Right,
it's trivial to do that.
right.
Because if you're doing.
But that's a setup issue that's on your end.
Right.
You might check with HonorCon about GPS, because they have a card printer thing, that they said that we could do for the cost of.
All right, I'll look into it.
Because if it's just a QR code, then at that point, it opens up who you can get to do it.
Right. No, I will look into it. I'm gonna talk to Bob, because Bob's gonna redesign the card anyways.
My name is John, I was once a systems analyst.
I'm still gonna talk to Bob, because Bob's gonna redesign the card anyways, because while the cards are simple,
And if we use QR codes, we use tablets and smartphones to do that as well.
right. But we can tie it into the database. The database does stuff automatically with it.
Absolutely.
Perfect. See, those are the answers I was waiting to get.
What language?
Well, they were also questions I had not yet asked, but they're, so.
I've asked them,
But they weren't shared with me, so I didn't know they did it.
but waiting for UCOM to approve the other idea for the temporary one.
Okay.
UCOM hasn't approved them, therefore we can't issue them.
Can I cattle prod you come to have them approve them?
That would be great.
Because I'm good at that.
Can I watch?
It's these ones.
It's these ones.
Stream it.
She's got a different idea. I've seen her, but like I said, like you got approved for the fleet ones, local fleet design ones also. They're
Alright.
basic, they're QR code based, like what they
All right. Let me cattle prod you come. I'm good at cattle prod. I'm good at cattle prodding Facebooks. That's what I'm here for. For my job description, apparently. So far, cattle prodding in sort of non-descript areas.
Not enough for juice.
Drew's just shaking his head.
Stay on the FLA's good side.
In general, things are moving well. The Academy is processing exams at an insanely incredible rate. There are always some delays, and just I ask people to accept those delays when they happen, because we're all human and we all do things outside of TRMN.
Really?
Yeah, you know. We show up and we run cons.
Something has to.
And it's really funny because we actually show up to other people's cons and take over. I mean, we literally show up to other people's cons and they look at us and they're like, ooh, you look good for that. Can you do security? Or you look like you have your shit together. Can you handle this guest for us because we need someone to do it?
They love us when we do that.
And we're like, okay, sure, why not?
We have ways of taking over your car.
Yeah.
And, well,
Soon all cons will be TRMN.
Well, my plan is working on
It's
that.
okay.
Get him. Mark.
I didn't say they need me, Ron. I said they need TRMN.
That's right.
Not very little difference there, Mark.
All your comments. All your comments.
so
Apparently I've been overruled, so.
for those who didn't hear the story, didn't go to VCon in Canada, TRMN, there was 14 of us, did a military honor guard to walk David in. And the comment from the guests of honor was, best damn guest of honor entry anywhere. Where do I get that escort? And as a result of that, both con chairs and their spouses joined TRMN on the spot.
Nice. Nice. Well, the year that we had David at shore leave was an amazing year. Not because we had David at shore leave and basically put on a con and a con, but because we got pulled in to do security. It was us, it was the Starfleet group, and it was one other group. I think it wasn't 501st. It was like a Babylon 5 group or something like that. But our people and the Bab 5 people showed up, and the Starfleet people did, which is issue number 1. Issue number 2 was it's the only time I've ever seen the head of con security walk up to a person who it's their first year doing convention security at shore leave. They are not from the U.S. They are Czech. They were all in their Czech Marine getup, and Stanislav walks up to the head of comm security, he's like, we need to relieve someone to checkpoint Charlie. I have relieved the person standing inside the main room for Shatner to give them a break. And we need 2 more roving people down at the end of the hallway to control the crowds down by the tables. And the comm security guy turns around, picks up the radio, and calls in the orders without even questioning. And I'm just standing here watching him do this, and I'm like, dude, you're the head of security, and that never happens. You don't let the first-year people at Shore Leave have that kind of control over security. So I'm just going to step back and let our guys do what they're doing. And we were such a presence there that year that everybody just kind of like, wow. Who are the people in green? They look like real military people. They're from the Czech Republic. I mean, they stood at the checkpoint like this, and people were like, I don't know if I want to approach you.
So basically, by the end of the con, they were all like, check please.
So anyways, but no, we're going to keep running MagicCon, we're going to keep running HonorCon. HonorCon will run again next year. Like I said, we did well enough this year that it's definitely worth running next year. We'll get the feedback from everybody. So please answer that when you get it. For those of you that are on staff, by the way, we're going to have the Bitch at Martin session at about 3 o'clock. There will be some rules for the Bitch at Martin session.
Everybody has to bitch.
There will be some rules for the Bitch at Martin session, mainly because I want to try to get us out of here and done by no later than 5, and that includes like packing up all the stuff.
Rule number 1, that he must have multiple strike marks across his back.
Excited yet about the potential Albuquerque in February #3 convention that you were talking about?
Oh, the one in 2017? So I don't know the answer to whether or not that one's going to go forward until after we've held MantiCon. That one is going to be completely based on whether or not the other two so the rule that I have in place, so there's discussion from John Roberts in 8th Fleet about wanting a convention in Albuquerque in February, which for those of us who live in places like, Minneapolis or Chicago or Boston, where February usually means lots of snow on the ground, Albuquerque is a great place to go because there's no snow in February.
Have you been to Albuquerque?
In February? Yes. Yes, I have. Surprisingly enough. Albuquerque itself is kind of like a meh destination, but it's the ability to not have snow on the ground. It's also close to Los Angeles. We can get some media guest stars in relatively easily without spending a whole butt ton of money on flying people in. So that's another bonus with it. But the requirements that I've given to John Roberts are that HonorCon must be a success and MantiCon must be a success. So I don't know if that one's going to happen until after MantiCon. If it does, we'll start negotiating hotels probably a week or 2 after, just so that we do it far enough out and so that it's ready to go. And the goal with that one is the same as the goal with this one, which is once I'm certain that my financial backing is not going to bankrupt my own wallet, I will happily remain on to sign hotel contracts and be hotel liaison, but I'm going to hand it off to the local people to run as much as possible. So because I have to focus on TRMN, and I can't do everything, sadly. As much as I hate to admit that to myself, I can't do everything. I wish I could. If you can find a way to clone me, go ahead. My clones can do it for me. Well, no, but it would have to be 4 because there would have to be 1 for each of the 3 cons.
But then the 8th fleet's gonna have one, and then other fleets are gonna wanna have one. And
Well, so if other fleets want one, you guys can find one like 3 months after, or 3 months before this one, which puts you 3 months after MagicCon.
August.
And quite honestly, if I'm going to wind up picking a fleet for August, 7th Fleet is by far a favored choice. It's Europe.
Yeah.
It's Europe, but European cons are slightly different, so I need people to travel there, and that makes it difficult. So
Talk to Santa Claus.
The advantage for 10th Fleet in that is it's still, you know, that high summer, it's not incredibly hot.
And depending on where in 10th Fleet, remember 10th Fleet goes from the Mexican border to the Canadian border.
Well, let's talk
No,
about
you stretch all the way up to Alaska.
Yeah, we stretch all the way up to Alaska, this is true.
But the only
We
problem,
could hold one
I
night.
was thinking the Seattle Rain Fest, actually.
Oh, yes, well, yes, but,
Alright, anyways, I'm gonna pull us back on track here so that we can hurry this up and get out of here. I'm gonna hand it over to John Stout. John's gonna go over some info on SITs for the organization as a whole. That is correct, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
I figured you want to hand, yes.
A year and a half ago, first off, my name is John. I'm a gamer. It's a good opener. A year and a half ago, I had my arm twisted to join this organization because a certain person that nobody knows, named Martin Lessem, had heard me. Lessem, I know how to
less.
I'm sorry, I don't know how much the lease would be to lease them.
Talk to Sergey.
But he's doing All right. Back on track. He twisted my arm really hard to have me join because he heard me mention two words, SITs and scenario building. And the first thing he asked is, can I make a crusher for the TRMN? Mainly because he wanted an alternative for people to, rather than write a thesis, to have some other way to do the crusher and complete the ATC course. The first scenario and the first test was done the next day. The second test was done last year at HonorCon. And last night, Friday night, we had a victim for the third and final test. The crusher scenario is complete. The people who have tested it.
It's not live yet.
What do you mean it's not live yet? Oh yeah, you gotta approve it, never mind.
It's not live yet. It's complete, it's not live yet.
It's complete, it's completely tested, it's ready to go. As soon as, the person we all wait around to get stuff from decides to pull the trigger.
So you realize you have to run me through to Manticon before I will give it.
Oh, yeah, okay, hey, wait a minute, no, just a second. We had three tests, we had three people the first day who were test dummies. Justin Gray from 2nd Fleet, Marine General Greg Marchant, who, like a Marine, put himself in the way of a Navy flag officer. And that third person, like I said, test dummy, Martin Lessem for FLA. The HonorCon test last year, the test dummy was Admiral Daniel Walker. Yes, he did. He broke it actually, which was good. We want to break during a test. It's why programmers hand programs to users so they will break it in ways we didn't think about. The redefined one Friday night, the test victim was Rear Admiral Stephanie Taylor. So yes, it is complete. It will require 200 points to finish it. And in order to qualify to take the crusher, you have to go through the SITs 101, 201, 301, and 401 courses, which is nothing that I will mention up here right now, here momentarily about. And there is a no-win scenario because somebody we never pay attention to. That same Daniel Walker wanted a honor versus Kobayashi Maru.
No.
And yes, it is an honor versus Kobayashi Maru. There really doesn't need to be a test for this because you're one reliant battle cruiser and we bring in more Andromani than you ever want to think about every turn. So we crush you. The actual idea of victory conditions are really, what part of no-win scenario do you not understand? But those are all ready to go as soon as it's approved. I even have the manual written up for it. And as soon as Martin gets a chance to look at it and tell me to ship it over to ViewCom, I will. I also want to mention that currently There are 3 people certified to do the SITS 101, besides myself, this one, and the captain of the Leonidas out in 2nd Fleet. We will want to get more people to certify as soon as possible, and there are, huh?
You're not certified? You're 101?
I'm certified, trust me.
We need certifiable.
Certifiable.
You know anything?
I'm an equal opportunity person. Yes. He has gone through the crusher. Now, mind you, anyone who has tested it, and we had discussed at one point about the people who had completed the crusher being considered for the ATC, having completed the ATC, the test dummies. Is that still the case?
I would say at least for 101 or 201.
No, I meant for the ATC.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's still the case. I need Friedline to finally bless it, but yeah, it's still the case.
Okay. So that is the goal, because they were the test dummies, they are considered to have completed the ATC. As soon as he gets the blessing and dots the I's and crosses the T's. I am willing to teach and certify people for SITs. I'm willing to make the drives. It's a little difficult if I have to go eat west of the Mississippi. Certain areas close by, we can work on the gas and everything, but it's the transportation and living costs. I'm definitely looking to do SITs again at both at HonorCon and MantiCon every year. But we'd like to get more and more people out there certified so that they can learn to do it and we get more people playing it. Yes?
Would you be willing to come out to Starfest in Denver in April?
The problem is we'd have to check with how am I getting there? That's the problem.
Okay.
I'm not
If
someone.
we can figure that out.
If we can
would
figure
you
that
be
out,
willing
I
to come
can.
out For 8th Fleet?
Yes, if we can figure that out, I can. The other issue is scheduling. Is scheduling.
Okay.
There's been one other person who has been running SITs about as much as I have currently out in 10th Fleet. Gar Littrell, the Marine off of the Truculent, or the Truculent, truck, yeah, the Truculent.
They refer to themselves as the mother trucker, so.
Has been ran 12 hours at VCon, and has done a number of others that Admiral Cena has mentioned to me.
Oh, no, don't promote me.
Or whatever, I look.
Captain.
Captain.
Commodore.
Commodore.
Oh, Commodore, okay.
The 2 points on that, Gar is even traveling down to Portland and elsewhere and teaching local gamers, but about your travel and your dislike for airports, Amtrak rail passes, get clear across the country for airline fare type stuff.
I would, yeah, well, that's a good thing. I've been thinking about it. I at least want to make one of the long drives just to say I did it before I died. Yeah, kinda. Just to say I did it. But other than that, that's where we stand now. Scheduling becomes the issue. I'd like to prefer to start scheduling things 3 to 4 months, 2 to 3, 4 months out, because I have other obligations. My boss knows.
You're going to Chicago next week, right?
You have a microphone in your hand?
Yes. No. I'm weighing the chair to see if it's heavy enough. No, not next week. My boss knows where I sleep. And the other aspect is I have another number of other obligations that get scheduled. So yeah, I'm willing to come in, contact me through the either First Fleet Staff Intel Officer or the FLA's Tactical Officer, also AKA the SITS bitch.
He gave himself that name. I just use it.
Yes, he does. And that's the state of it now, and we are now able to start progressing on it. This week, I did not get anyone certified this weekend because of certain things getting off the rails, like people being needed for security. So that is okay. And that's about it, and that's it.
Excellent.
I tried to keep it short.
You did fine. That's generally all the annual meeting stuff I have, unless you guys have some questions. We can take some questions for a few minutes. But then after that, I'd like to let everybody sort of go decompress for a little while, have lunch, get some food in you, and we can all meet back here at, let's say 3:15. That gives you guys about an hour and a half to decompress and sort of relax. Are there any questions before I go?
Why is the sky blue?
Questions going once.
Has to do with reflections from the ocean and light going through the ozone and stuff like that. There's a sciencey answer to that. I'm just too tired to bring out the right words.
Folks that want to assist staff next year.
Oh, yes, if anyone wants to assist on staff next year and you were not on staff this year, please come to the meeting at 3:15. Because that way we can identify who you are. And we can write your name in a little tiny book.
And then get the nice men in suits to come get you.
Yeah, pretty good. But also because your input is equally valued, and I'd like to know it sooner rather than later. Part of the reason we're doing this is because I'm going up to Minneapolis the next weekend. I'm going to sit down with the Manticon crowd, and I want to kind of go over a general list of what did not work or what we could improve on, and what went really well, because obviously the stuff that went really well, we're just going to turn around to Manticon and say, do this way. And the stuff that we need to improve on, we can say, don't do this way. So, and plus it gives us a slightly bigger brain trust to try to figure out solutions to some of the issues that we have. So, any other questions?
Yeah, but it's about a words manual, so I'll wait.
Should be out by the end of the week.
My question on that is there's a whole lot of things currently that say, awaiting future expansion. Have they been futurely expanding?
Some of them have, some of them have not.
Okay. More tools to reward people is always good.
Yes, although, for example, some of them are future expansion that, although the text is now in there, they don't kick into effect for like another 3 years.
Well, there's one in there, it doesn't kick in for longer than that because it required 10 years in the organization.
Yeah, we have people that are approaching that. Realize we're 7 years old now.
That's the toddler stage.
Did Garner Mitchell need some form of recognition for what he's been doing?
Submit an award request to Kim.
Okay.
I'll get you his TRMN number.
All right. And an idea of what you think might be a good one?
Yeah. Well, we'll poke through.
Sometimes we upgrade.
Huh?
Sometimes we upgrade.
Sometimes they go, I don't make suggestions too.
At least a great star or
What
something.
kind of, for next year, what kind of staff openings are you looking at?
Organization or cost?
The or con, I guess it would be.
So I don't fully know yet. I know that we need more minions in various departments to help out with stuff. I know that tech is going to require, although we got a second person to help Jerry out, tech is definitely going to require at least 1 or 2 more people. I think we were good for registration.
Changing structure a little bit, and I kind of want to go over that in the meeting.
All right.
But I'm going to move more into the tech position for registration and let somebody else actually run the operations.
So we're going to have some restructuring of registration. I think security is going to need some more people. We probably need more people for kids' room. Shaking your head, yes. I don't know about gaming. Jonathan's not here because the game room is
Yes.
still active.
He's got a lot of developmental information.
Okay.
There's
And
more,
so-
like I said, we were talking to Horizon, they actually are looking to actually support us more.
Yeah.
More space next year.
Yeah, no, I spoke to them too, and that's one of the good things is, with the exception of one bookseller that I've spoken to, most of our vendors want to come back. The one that was right, like 2 tables down from GSUP probably won't, because we had so many other booksellers here. So we just need to try to diversify that, but that, we can get into that later on. I've already got a note on that. Well, where are we at, like 271?
279 total that I had as of yesterday afternoon.
that are checked in?
No, we had, yeah, I'll give it to you exactly, 5 seconds.
Okay, because there are 11 people, there are 21 people because they're at the door that for some reason don't list as registered.
Right.
So add 21 to your number. It's 90.
My total checked in attendees was, give just a second. 279 tickets sold, 237 checked in. That's probably closer to 252, according to that information that you just gave me.
279, you said?
279 that were set for attendance, 237 checked in. With that 22, you're talking about
So it's 90.
65.
So it's 90%.
Yeah.
We had 90% attendance for people that bought memberships. Some of those are Grayson memberships, they wouldn't have been here anyways. But, I mean, that's a pretty good result. So, you know, it's definitely a success. We had 206 tickets that were sold pre-registration. So, I mean, this is a success no matter how you look at it from that perspective. And like I said, assuming we don't get some weird bill from the hotel tomorrow, we're in the black, so.
Whoops. Did you really say whoops?
I just
Charge all that alcohol.
No, thank you, fine.
Yeah, I mean, assuming we don't get some weird bill from the hotel tomorrow, there's some things that are up that I need to talk to the hotel about, so that we don't get charged for them, like the screens in the other 3 rooms, which should have been taken down yesterday. So I ain't paying for them for the next, for today, basically. Because we didn't ask for them, so, unless they're giving them to us for free today. So, but assuming that we don't get hit with some weird bill, we've made at least a small profit.
We actually hit, according to you, the profit line Saturday about 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not willing to say that we actually crossed it until I know until I've seen the final bill from the hotel and just make sure. Because the other thing I don't know is what the guests have done as far as food.
Yeah.
And they had permission to put that to the room, so that's sort of that nebulous part of. They knew what their budget was, so I'm assuming that they have not gone over their budget. We've hosted David before, so I know he doesn't, and I've worked with Keith before, so I'm just assuming that Tim didn't go over his budget either. I'm assuming that we're still probably in the black as we actually.
Not according to him. Not according to him, they did.
Right, so then we're fine. Then we're fine. It's a very slim profit margin, but there is a profit. So that's
First year con, any first year con that makes even the slimmest of profit margins is done well.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying that I'm considering us a success. I mean, let's put it like this. Starfleet International has had international conferences that they do basically in a sense as a convention. I was a member for 15 years. In those 15 years, they only had one that made a profit. So on average, they were losing about $500 to $600 per international conference. And the one that they had that was a profit, that was a profitable year was a year that we don't really know if it was profitable. The books were kind of squiffy.
Squiffy.
Yeah, squiffy.
It's the word for the day.
It's a technical term.
Yes.
Technically, completely not squiffy.
It's a technical term, and the squiffiness had to do with the fact that IRS paperwork was not filed correctly, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff that was wrong with it. So we don't really know if it made a profit or not. They're claiming that it did, but skeptical cat is skeptical. So, anyways, I'm gonna let you all go to lunch because unless there are any other questions, which I'm not seeing it. So, be back here at 3:15 for those of you that are on the con committee. Those of you that want to be on the con committee, we will have the pitch at partner session.